to rock this place.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and ready to finally top opening week football. But first, I'd like to bring on my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any further delay, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great, Jamie. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. As we were talking about backstage, what a wild comeback game that game was for the Bills. And like you said, you were fighting and you were going to turn it off and you kept the game on, but you missed it and you realized the Bills won half asleep and you thought it was a dream. Well, you made a good choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll certainly talk more about that when we talk about the game. But what a crazy way to start the season, right? I love week one football. Not only do we have a new season that we're excited about, but, later in the season, you're watching games and you're thinking about scenarios. And, okay, now if this team wins and this team loses, then the playoff scenario sets up like that. Week one, nobody's thinking about that yet. Everybody's a playoff team or a potential playoff team week one. And really, people are just focused on the games. And we certainly got a handful of incredible games this week, including ours, right? The Bills game, which was the best of all, could be the game of the season already for the NFL for week one. But, again, I love week one football just for that reason. We're not focused on playoff scenarios. We're not focused on, other things, just the games themselves and winning or losing the game. And that's what it was all about in the Bills game and all about in some of these other games that we're going to talk about and all over the NFL.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start off this week. So with all the hype around the Cowboys and the Micah Parsons trade this week, are you ready to kick off and talk about the Thursday night game with the Dallas Cowboys taking on the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, much to the dismay of my mom, who's a Cowboys fan, to hear that at 8:20 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field?
Yeah, well, go right ahead. Now, I wouldn't be too ashamed if I was a Cowboys fan, but we'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. So go ahead and tell us your point of view of that game.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with what happened. Obviously, with an intriguing start to the game, but I thought this was totally uncalled for. You know what I'm going to be talking about, right?
Of course.
Defensive tackle Jalen Carter got ejected for giving Dak Prescott that Hawk 2 on spinning on that game. And he spit on quarterback Dak Prescott after the two players had words. It led to Prescott leading the team for 53 yards in 6 plays, with running back Javonte Williams rushing for a 1-yard touchdown. But, I mean, Joe, it's like, come on, what the heck? Sirianni's got to be thinking, what the hell are you doing? It's like, we're the defending Super Bowl champs. I have a reputation of being a team that's well-disciplined. You're one of my best players, and you go do something like that not only led to a Cowboy score, but it foreshadowed a closer game than expected because of that. It left a big hole in the middle of their D-line.
Yeah, 60,000 other people were asking that same question. 60,000 people or whatever the attendance was in Philadelphia. Millions of other fans around the NFL world watching this game were asking the same question. I'll give you my point of view once you're done, with your take there. But I was just appalled. And so like I said, I'll talk more when I give my point of view, but I'm going to let you continue.
Mm-hmm. It led to Prescott leading the team for 53 yards and 6 plays with running back Javonte Williams rushing for a 1-yard touchdown, all 220 pounds of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
anyway,
certainly showed up.
Yep. And anyway, then we have Brandon Aubrey made the extra point to bring the score to 7-0 Cowboys. On the very next drive, the Eagles tied it up with the Jalen Hurts so good 4-yard rush up the middle of the field, bringing the score to 7-0. At the start of the second quarter, Williams scored his second touchdown of the night with a 1-yard run, bringing the score to Dallas 14, Philly 7. With 7:42 left in the half, Hurts led the Eagles 65 yards in 12 plays and took it in for himself to tie the game with an 8-yard touchdown. With 2:38 left in the first half, Aubrey kicked a 41-yard field goal, bringing the score to 17-14 Cowboys. With 1:04 left in the half, Saquon Barkley scored a 10-yard touchdown to get their first lead of the game, 21-17. And while he didn't hurdle anybody like on the Madden cover like he did against Jacksonville, it was an important score to give them their first lead of the game. To end the first half, Aubrey kicked a 53-yard field goal to close out the half at Philly 21, Dallas 20. With 8:35 left in the third quarter, Jake Elliott hit a 58-yard field goal to bring the score to Philly 24, Dallas 20. At the 4:44 mark of the third quarter, after a little over a 1-hour lightning delay, the Cowboys held the Eagles and took over the ball after a 3-and-out. Dallas had to punt the ball, and the Eagles took over to start the fourth quarter. And then again, after a 3-and-out, Philly had to punt. And the Cowboys started with 3:02 left in the fourth quarter, but couldn't convert and turned the ball back over to the Eagles. And the game ended Philly 24, Dallas 20. So, Joe, did you think the score of this game was going to be this close?
No, I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. I had the Eagles winning maybe like 28-20, something like that. I thought maybe it would be within one score. But I didn't think it would be this close. And again, Cowboys fans out there, I think you should be proud of the way your team played against the Super Bowl champs. They were almost able to crash the Super Bowl party here. So, certainly, Cowboys showed up. Again, we were talking about, the running back Williams there who had 2 touchdowns. Dak Prescott played a solid game. Now, what a wild start to the NFL season. I'm watching the first play here, and a poor guy goes down, and you could tell he had a season-ending injury there. Turns out it was a patellar tendon tear. The Eagles fullback there. And after the first play, a significant player is done for the season. Feel so bad for that too. And they said, I read an article somewhere that they said half of these patellar tendon tears are career ending. So it's definitely a significant injury, and hopefully it's not career ending for him. And then I see some pushing and shoving, and I think, wow, this is crazy. You got 2 teams that hate each other already after the first play of the game going after each other. And then on top of that, somebody spitting on another player. Now, if I'm a commissioner, I suspend this guy for at least 3 games. All right. Now, as it turns out, the news today, I don't know if you heard, they say because
I was wide open. I did hear the news today. Go on.
So he did, so I guess they're saying that game, since he didn't play a down pretty much, except for the opening kickoff, his punishment is over. And, he didn't get paid for the game, which is about $57,000 plus. I would have done it for more. I really would have. And he probably got fined by his team as well. I like the way Sirianni's handling it. I'm sure he's not happy. And you were saying at the beginning, again, we're a Super Bowl championship team. And, we pride myself on discipline with this team. And then to go out and do absolutely something stupid and as unsportsmanlike as can possibly be, I am sure that he and the Eagles were not happy about that. But, he said he's handling it privately. He's not giving out details. I'm okay with that. I'm sure that they had some kind of discipline there, as far as a fine or something along those lines. But just absolutely disgusting. I've lost all respect forever for this player. And, I have no respect for anybody that's ever going to do that. Now, I will say this, and I heard this. I didn't see it. There's a rumor that they said Dak kind of provoked the whole thing and maybe also spit in that direction. I didn't see it, and I don't know that to be true. I mean, we did see, what Carter did, but and Carter didn't say anything about, well, Dak did it first. He owned up to it. But if that happened, then shame on Dak Prescott as well. But what a crazy start to the season, right? This is after the first kickoff, and we haven't even had a play from scrimmage yet. But again, Cowboys played good. Jalen Hurts is playing like an MVP candidate after week 1 here. His passing stats are okay, but he had 62 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, was determined to get the win for his team here. So again, so far playing like an MVP. How about CeeDee Lamb too, over 100 yards? He had 110 yards receiving there as well. Dak Prescott again playing solid. Again, a good solid game by both teams, well played, and the Eagles take care of it and are 1-0.
You see, Joe, I'm glad you're handling the fact that he cost them the game with those 2 drops with class, because those 2 drops he had, the drop at the one he had would have given them a touchdown lead. But I'm glad you still gave him his flowers for having a good game, and you didn't try to pass judge. Yeah, that's what I like about you. You see, you're the opposite of me. When I watch games, I pass judgment, and you're great for me because you're the opposite of that. You don't like to do that, really.
Yeah, I won't say that I don't, because as behind the scenes, as I'm watching, I certainly make those judgments too, as I think everybody does. But yeah, thank you for that, because I do like to, accent the positive here. And I'm glad people see that. Thank you.
And as far as what I saw, he was spitting on the ground. It was never towards Carter. People thought it was towards him, but no, he just went and it hit the turf.
Okay, and I believe that. It wasn't
actually at him. I saw the video.
Excellent. I totally believe that.
Jalen misunderstood, and he thought it was at him, and it was a heat of the moment thing, and he did it to them, and he did it to him because he was mistaken that he thought Dak did it to him, but the video showed it. He spit on the ground first. That's why.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I'm glad, because Dak Prescott, I know, has a lot more class than to, spit in the direction of somebody else.
Right. Okay. Speaking of that, Joe, how do you think Dak actually did after being out all last season? We were in the Malloy house, especially one particular individual who's sitting with me right here. She and I were talking. We didn't know what to expect with Dak, because Joe Milton was playing all the preseason games, and it was like, should Dak have at least tried to play a game? But I guess it was just another way to rest his knee. So and it was good for Joe Milton to get valuable reps in case something happens to Dak later on, or potentially.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Now, he didn't play a spectacular game. In fact, his quarterback rating was pretty low. It was only like 76 or something. But he had 188 yards, not too bad. So I'm not surprised. I think he played a good game. Like I said, not a great game, but the bottom line is he gave his team a chance to win, and he was doing everything he can or everything he could here to help them get that win. So again, the stats aren't that impressive, but to come back from injury like that and to give his chance a legitimate chance to win this game, I think you have to give him kudos there.
What's great about Dak and Jalen Hurts and all these young quarterbacks is I feel like they've taken a lot of lessons from Brady. Like I said, I think they learned from Tom Brady that you just got to play within the system. You don't always have to try to be a hero, because as good as Brady was, that's what he did. He played within Belichick system, and a lot of these young quarterbacks have soaked in that knowledge from him, and I think they've soaked it in from what Mahomes has done too.
And I was just going to mention Mahomes because, you know, we all get carried away with stats, and the stats are the attractive thing. Nobody is more into that than I do, and I get wowed by the stats all the time. But, you know, there's guys like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, look at last year and even the last couple of years. The stats weren't impressive, but the dude knows how to win, and he went to the Super Bowl, you know, 3 years in a row and won it 2. So, you know, winning is what it's all about. If you can have the impressive, wowing stats with it, that's even better. But getting the job done and winning games and getting, you know, a chance to win championships is really the number one objective.
And the coach developing a culture first before you start winning, which is what McDermott has done with the Bills. Dan Campbell did that when he first took over with the Lions, and Nick Sirianni did it when he took over the Eagles. And I think you're starting to see Brian Schottenheimer and the Cowboys finally realize this is how you actually start building a consistent winner, is you develop a culture. And I think this is something the Cowboys have finally realized, I think, after years of trying to put all their eggs in one basket, and they would have winning records, but they never had a long-term culture to be able to sustain going far in the playoffs. But I think the Cowboys are showing now that they're following the rest of the league and say, this is how you start. You go with the culture first before the winning.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they're trying to develop that culture, which is, you know, what you need first. And they certainly have the talent there. You know, they're not lacking talent. So if they can develop that culture and then, you know, match the talent and add to it, then, you know, they could be right back in the mix very soon.
See, everybody says it's all about winning. It is. But these younger coaches, they say, like I said, it is all about winning, right? But like I said, if you don't have it's really not about winning if you don't have the culture first. Like if you place winning first before the culture, that can be a dangerous thing. So you want to set the culture first before winning, and that's how college football coaches do when they build a program. It's the same thing.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to the Friday night game in Sao Paulo, which is St. Paul, Brazil in Portuguese, where the Kansas City Chiefs took on their division rivals, the Los Angeles Chargers. Go Chargers, go, as Arnold used to say.
I keep wanting to say San Diego Chargers.
Right. The Chargers scored first when Quentin Johnston caught a 5-yard pass from Justin Rainbow Sherbert Herbert to bring the score to 7-0 Chargers to close out the first quarter. With 13:47 left in the second quarter, Cameron Dicker, the kicker, kicked a 39-yard field goal to increase the Chargers' lead to 10-0. Harrison Butker then kicked a 35-yard field goal to cut the Chargers' lead to 10-3. With 45 seconds left in the half, Dicker kicked his second field goal of the day, increasing LA's score to 13-3. Bucker then kicked a 59-yard field goal as time expired in the half, bringing the score to 13-6 Chargers. To start the third quarter, Patrick Mahomes rushed the ball in for an 11-yard touchdown score. Oh, good to see him finally get in the game, right? But guess what, Joe? Bucker uncharacteristically missed the extra point to bring the score to 13-12 Chargers. The chosen one, the great Christian, Harrison Buckner, never misses the kicks like that, huh?
No, right? He never did.
With 32 seconds left, Keenan Allen scored on an 11-yard touchdown pass from Herbert to increase the score and ending the third quarter 20-12. With 12:04 left, Travis Loverboy Kelsey finally got into the action as he caught a 37-yard pass from Mahomes, but the two-point conversion try failed, bringing the score to 20-18 Chargers. The Chargers appeared to put the game away as Johnston hauled in his second pass from Herbert for 23 yards, bringing the score 27-18. With 2:34 left in the game, Bucker kicked his third field goal of the game for 27 yards, but that's all the team had left in them, bringing the final score to Chargers 27, Chiefs 21. So, Joe, don't you think that Justin Herbert should be right up there with some of the elite quarterbacks, especially after beating the Chiefs? I feel like he's one of those guys that he's very underrated. He doesn't get the credit or the flowers that I think he deserves with some of the Allens and the Mahomes. What do you think after a win like this?
Well, he's certainly getting there. Now, I always liked Justin Herbert, but I always felt like, again, this guy can't win the big game. And, listen, I saw this coming. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch this game. I was away, family wedding and everything. So I was kind of traveling for part of it. And then I got to where I was going Friday evening. And, my parents didn't have access to the game. So I didn't watch it, but we were tracking it. And I tell you what, if I had the mortgage money in my pocket, I would have put it on the Chiefs because the Chargers are up, right? And the Chiefs were down, but you could see the Chiefs coming back, right? And making a game out of it. And I'm like, you know what? This is the type of game. How many times have we seen this movie, right? The Chiefs are losing. No big deal. They're making the comeback. And of course, they're going to take this game away. And the Chargers, how many times have we seen this movie, right? Just like we said with Herbert, can't get the job done, can't win the big game, right? Mm-hmm. But we were watching the same movie we've seen 100 times, but OMG, they changed the ending. The Chargers actually won this game. I was shocked. Just because, again, so much of recent history has the Chiefs winning this game. So many times in recent history has the Chargers finding a way to lose this game. All right, especially with Herbert as quarterback. The only thing missing is who was the coach of the Chargers before this game or before Harbaugh here?
Brandon Staley, but guess what? He actually developed Herbert into a good quarterback. The problem was his defenses weren't good. And you got to remember, Joe, the quarterback doesn't play defense. You got to remember that.
And that's true. But how many of these games, especially with Staley there, did the Chargers lose, right? And I thought the same exact thing was going to happen here. So great job by the Chargers winning this game. Now, I hate to be a party pooper, but I hate these stupid European or South American games. I really do. I think the potential for injury is higher. I would much rather watch this game from Kansas City than I would from Sao Paulo. No offense. I'll watch Sao Paulo when there's a soccer game there. But I hate these games, and I wish the NFL would stop them. I know they won't. So that's another reason I don't know how much of I would have watched of it anyway. But again, you were talking about Herbert and winning big games. He had those pretty stats to go with it that I was just talking about a few minutes ago. 318 yards. His quarterback rating was like 131, which is incredible. Quentin Johnson with a couple of touchdowns too. Again, you mentioned some guy named Kelsey getting a touchdown for the Chiefs there. But again, maybe things are changing. I said this year, again, Chiefs still win the division. I still think it's going to happen, but I don't know. Maybe the tide is turning because, again, this game ended the way it was not supposed to end. I like the ending, don't get me wrong, but still, the Chargers winning this game that they haven't been winning in several years, the Chiefs losing this type of game that they haven't been losing in a couple of years, maybe we're seeing some change here. We shall see.
I feel like we are because, Job, you actually look at it was the same thing what plagued them last year in the Super Bowl, even though they were winning all these close games. If you notice, they don't have a lot of receivers, or like I said, their offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. And the Chiefs are failing to realize you may have Mahomes, right? Mm-hmm. But even a great quarterback can't do anything if you don't put a line around him. Because look at Tom Brady. As good as Tom Brady was, his offensive line was great every year. He never had these problems with the O-line that Mahomes is having.
That's true. And again, to be continued, because we're going to see how much of effect this has. And hopefully Mahomes can stay healthy.
Yeah. And like I said, he doesn't, except for Xavier Worthy, like he's basically got, and Travis Kelce really doesn't have a lot of talent at receiver to throw to. It was the same thing last year. You could see it too.
Yep.
So, but, so anyway, Joe, I was going to get to that. Joe, do you think that the lack of receivers hurt the Chiefs in this game? I know it's to them, it's not an excuse, but people who watch the games know it's painfully obvious that that's a weakness now. Same thing with their O-line. And like I said, it's why they have to run the ball basically more, because they're not a threat in the passing game anymore like they used to be. They're not this aerial offense that they were that can hurt you through the air.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And again, I was not able to see the game, so it's kind of hard for me to make that determination, I guess, based on, just some of the stats and all that. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be not only this game, but I think it's going to be an issue all year. And again, the Chiefs, don't count them out. They know how to get things done. Mahomes knows how to get the best of players, just like Tom Brady used to do. But, and some of these receivers, I mean, Hollywood Brown had almost 100 yards in this game. So statistically, I mean, these receivers had some decent games, but really, we're going to talk about the Bills and everybody eats philosophy. Yeah, you're right. There's only really 2.5, really high quality receivers here. I mean, I'm looking at this now. Hollywood Brown had 10 catches, again, 99 yards. Smith-Schuster had 5 and Kelce had 2. And, there was a couple other people with like 2 and 1. So really there's not a lot of depth there. And if something happens to Hollywood Brown or Smith-Schuster or Kelce even, they're going to be in even more trouble. So again, we're going to see how this plays out. And again, if this is the case where you only have 1 or 2 high quality receivers, they're going to get double teamed, and it's going to be even more difficult to get these receivers the ball. So as I said, to be continued. And we're getting a question right now by one of our cohorts here at the network here. Does Tyreek Hill get traded to the Kansas City Chiefs? My answer to that immediately is I don't think so. But if the situation gets a little more dire here, I mean, what do you think, Jamie?
See, I don't think so. Andy Reid, the guy's but the problem with him is he's a headache to deal with. And like, look at what he's doing with Miami. Obviously, it's a much different situation, but there's a reason why Kansas City got rid of him. He just became too much of a headache who wanted the ball too much. And I don't think Andy Reid wants to deal with his headache or his antics anymore,
Okay. Yeah. And again, I don't see it happening. Again, it's a great question. But is it out of the question? No, I don't think so. Like I said, I would think it's less likely to happen, but it would make things interesting, wouldn't it?
Right, but they don't really need Tyreek Hill. They need line help. Tyreek Hill coming in there may be great, but he doesn't fix your offensive line problems you've had that dated back to last year or so.
Which is very true.
And like I said, Joe, I know the Bills do the everybody eats philosophy, but the Bills actually, for once, even last year, I think the Bills actually have a better offensive line than the Chiefs do. That's the difference.
Yeah, well, the Bills, I think, have one of the best offensive lines in football.
It's the same thing with the Eagles. Like Jalen Hurts is an MVP quarterback, but look at their offensive line. That's what kind of won them the Super Bowl too, with that mammoth group, and then their defense basically shut Mahomes down with a 4-man pass rush. But now tuning in our attention to the 1:00 game with the New York G-Man taking on the Washington Commanders at New West Stadium. Interesting name for a stadium, Joe, right? New West Stadium. And
how about if we just call it? Can we just call it the Meadowlands, for crying out loud? I mean, that's
FedEx Field.
Oh, that's right. It was at FedEx. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. Anyway, the Commanders scored first as Zach Ertz caught a 7-yard pass from Jaden Daniels to give the Commanders the lead at the end of the first quarter, 7-0. The Giants then got on the board as Graham Gano kicked a 21-yard field goal to bring the score to 7-3 Commanders. Washington would then capitalize with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt punching it in with a 6-yard run to bring the score to 14-3 at halftime. The Giants would make it a one-score game as Gano would make it his second field goal of the game for 55 yards to bring the score to 14-6 at the end of the third quarter. The Commanders would then put the game away as Deebo Samuel would run it in for a 19-yard touchdown, bringing the score to 21-6. So, Joe, what did you think about Russell Wilson's debut with the Giants?
Well, it wasn't pretty. We'll say that. I was on some of the open mic shows on here on this network, and some of the guys there were saying that, it's only a matter of time, and by week 2, Jackson Dart's going to be coming in there for Russell Wilson. And I'm going to be honest with you, I disagreed with that. I said, no, I think it's going to take at least 5 or 6 games before they're even thinking about that. Well, after this performance, I think those guys were right. All right. So, same old Giants on the offensive side of the ball, same old Russell Wilson. His quarterback rating was 59. And here's why now I agree that Dart's going to be coming in sooner or later, although they've confirmed that Russell Wilson is starting this week, week 2 here. There's jobs on the line here, right? We know Brian Daboll's job is on the line. We know the GM's job is on the line. You think they're going to sit and watch a performance like this and have their jobs be on the line with this kind of performance? I don't think so.
It's why they didn't draft Shedeur Sanders and they drafted Dart.
Yes. So I think, again, I agree with the guys that were saying this about how soon Jackson Dart was going to be put into the mix. Now, unless Russell Wilson lights it up this week, I think it's going to happen sooner than later. Again, the Giants, one thing I was very excited about, as I'm a Giants fan too. I mean, the Bills are my favorite team, but I grew up a Giants fan and still love the Giants. They're being built on defense right now. And I think the defense played pretty well. They have this guy, Bobby Okereke. The dude had 16 tackles in this game, all over the place. And the rest of the defense, again, I didn't think played that bad. Jaden Daniels, solid game, 233 yards and a touchdown. And again, give Washington credit for playing a solid game and winning this. But the Giants didn't have a chance, with the offensive performance that they had. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I've changed my tune. I agree. I think, get Jackson Dart in there. If I'm a coach with my job on the line and I'm an offensive guru here, let's get this guy in now. What would you rather have happen? Stay with Russell Wilson and wonder what, Jackson Dart can do. If I'm going down, even if Jackson Dart completely falls on his face, all right, at least now, at least you're not wondering, okay, what would it have been if we would have given this guy a chance and, seeing what he can do. Get him in there now. And again, if he falls on his face and you lose your job, at least you tried. At least, hey, you rolled the dice. They're not going anywhere with Russell Wilson. And now I wasn't convinced of that before, but I am now.
The one thing I am really confident, though, Joe, the one concern I don't have is you could say their offensive line didn't play well. Mm-hmm. But what do you think of the fact it's at least built now with Wilson or Dart that they can at least QB sneak it and get a first down? Not the tush push like how the Eagles do it, but the Giants at least have that play in their back pocket now with Dable and Kafka, because they didn't really have that before when they didn't have an offensive line with Daniel Jones, but now with Dart and Wilson, they had that play in their back pocket to be able to do it. Because remember when they ran the sneak against Washington, they did get the first down on it. It's not like they didn't get the first down, you know?
Yeah, we're definitely going to see some improvement in the Giants' offensive line. Now, I didn't really see this game, so I don't know, how they looked or if that was a big difference in this game. I don't think it was, but I can't really make a judgment on that without seeing the game. But we will see some improvement in the Giants' offensive line.
Yes, we will.
I'm very curious to see what happens next week. Do we see? Because I think they're playing in Dallas.
Yeah.
Am I right? I don't.
Yes.
I think that game is in Dallas, and we'll see if we get the 2023 home team Dallas Cowboys or the 2024 home team Dallas Cowboys. We'll see.
Right. And so, Joe, what did you think about the Commanders picking up from where they left off last year, as everyone pretty much said that Daniels was going to have a down year, Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, I'm somebody who said that, and I still think he's going to. Now, I said we had a prediction show on our show, I think it was, and I think I said this on the open mic show too. I saw both of these teams going 7-10. And the Giants finishing ahead of Washington. I'm not so sure about that now. I still don't think Washington makes the playoffs. And again, I could be wrong. I mean, they certainly look good here. I just don't think. I think they're still going to take a step back this year, but there's nothing guaranteed there. So far, we got off to a great start.
Okay. All right, so now looking at the 425 matchup between the Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. The Green Bay Packers scored first as Tucker Kraft Macaroni and Cheese scored a 15-yard touchdown from Jordan Love to give the Packers the lead 10-0. With 3:58 left in the first quarter, Brandon McManus hit a 34-yard field goal, bringing the score to 10-0 Green Bay at the end of the first quarter. Jake Bates then kicked a 30-yard field goal to put Detroit on the board 10-3. With 8:34 left in the second quarter, Jaden Reed caught a 17-yard pass from Love to increase the Packers' score to 17-3. To begin the third quarter, Bates kicked his second field goal of the game for 27 yards to bring the score to 17-6. Packers to end the quarter. With 7:57 left in the fourth quarter, Josh Jacobs ran it in for a 3-yard touchdown to bring the score to 24-6. With 4:22 left in the fourth quarter, McManus kicked his second field goal of 38 yards to bring the score to 27-6 Panthers. Isaac Tesla caught a 13-yard pass from Goff, from Elon Musk, Jared Goff. But the onside kick failed. And guess what, Joe? This is actually an interesting thing. The Lions, I think, were one of the only teams that I saw to actually declare for the onside kick. As you notice, the Bills, the Cowboys, and the Bears game, they all kicked it deep and tried to play defense with inside of 154 inside of 2 minutes. I wonder if that's going to be the new strategy now, because they figure the onside kick's a dead play. So even if it's a one-score game, you're just going to kick it deep and try to play defense with less field position to burn all your timeouts to get the ball back, because that worked for the Bills.
Yeah, and that could be, because you're right. That onside kick is a low percentage play.
Yeah. And basically that means they're going to have to keep doing something with the onside kick, or they're just going to let the guys just kick it deep like that and take it out of the game. You never know. But I don't know if they're going to take it out of the game.
I don't think they will. I don't think they should.
Right. But when it's gotten to a point where only one team tries it and everybody else doesn't even bother to do it, I mean, I don't know. Something's got to be done there. But anyway, so the onside kick failed, bringing the final score to 27-13 as time ran out for Detroit. So, Joe, what did you think of the Packers' impressive win and Micah Parsons' debut with his first sack, even though he was on a snap count?
Yeah, I think the Packers made a statement. Now, again, talking about wrong predictions, a lot of my predictions didn't pan out this week one here because I said, again, the Lions aren't dead yet. I picked them to win that division. But I tell you what, the Packers made a big statement here. So, again, with the Lions losing, the Washington winning, some other things, I lost some money with other predictions week one. It wasn't a good week one as far as predictions were concerned. But, again, you got to really appreciate the statement that the Packers made. Again, it's only one game, obviously. But really, offensively, again, Jordan Love played an amazing game, like 128 quarterback rating, which is excellent. I think if you want the truth, they made more of a statement defensively. I mean, that Lions 1-2 punch running combination did nothing. They really couldn't get it going offensively at all, the Lions. So I credit that to the Packers defense. Rashawn Gary at 1.5 sacks, Edgar and Cooper and on 12 tackles. So guys like that were all over the place here. I think an overall excellent effort, whatever the strategy was against the Lions, it worked. Again, they stopped the run. They never really got the pass attack going. So again, statement win for the Packers in a big divisional week one game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also, what do you think about Detroit's defense? As bad as they were, still holding Green Bay's offense to 27 points on the road.
Yeah, I mean, not a great game by the Lions defense, but I don't think they played that badly. They just couldn't get anything going offensively, and that's why they didn't win this game. Again, Packers were very methodical. It wasn't like they were all over the Lions defense, but very methodical, getting things done and, getting a convincing win.
Exactly. And now to our game of the week, the Baltimore Ravens one more time coming to the last home opener at the current Highmark Stadium to take on the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football at 8:20 p.m. With their first possession of the game, the Bills came out and went 50 yards on 5 plays, which started with a Brandon Conrington kick return, which was awesome to get out to the 50-yard line. Thank you, UFL, for that kickoff rule. I love it. With their first possession, the Bills for 3 minutes and 15 seconds, with Josh Allen throwing a perfect pass to Dalton Kincaid for a 15-yard touchdown to bring the score to 7-0 Bills. With 3:43 left in the first quarter, Tyler, here we go, loop-de-loop. Here we go, loop-de-lie. Kicked a 52-yard field goal to bring the score to 7-3 Bills. Derrick King Henry took it to the house for a 30-yard touchdown, scored an 85-yard 5-play drive, which took 3 minutes and 4 seconds off the clock with 13:45 left in the second quarter to bring the score to 10-7 Ravens. With 9:51 left in the second quarter, Lamar Jackson ran it in for an 11-yard touchdown score and a 69-yard 4-play drive taken off 2 minutes and 60 seconds off the clock, increasing the Ravens' lead to 17-7. Matt Prater then kicked a 25-yard field goal with 2:51 left in the second quarter to cut the Ravens' lead to 17-10. With 35 seconds left in the half, Loop kicked his second field goal of the night for 49 yards to bring the score to 20-10 Ravens. With 1 second left on the clock, Prater kicked his second field goal on the night for 43 yards to bring us to halftime, and the score to Baltimore 20, Buffalo 13. Oh, and Charles Raybury Sports Joe, who put the comment the last time, said, "We say loop, there it is."
I see that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Zay, anyway, now we move on. Zay, I can buy myself flowers, scored in the beginning of the third quarter with a 23-yard pass from Jackson to bring the score to 27-13 Baltimore. With 7:51 left in the third quarter, James the Cook scored on a 2-yard touchdown pass that lasted 7 minutes and 47 seconds with 9 plays on a 60-yard drive, but they failed on the 2-point conversion that would bring the score to 27-19 Ravens. DeAndre Hopkins scored on a 29-yard pass from Jackson with 1:14 left in the third quarter to bring the score to 34-19 Ravens. With 12:56 left in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen scored on a 2-yard touchdown play that lasted 3 minutes and 18 seconds with 8 plays on an 84-yard drive. And once again, they failed their 2-point conversion try, and they brought the score to 34-25. But they really don't have a chance, Joe, right? I mean, that's what we're thinking.
Nah, unfortunately, they're not winning this game.
Anyway, Derrick Henry scored on a 34-yard touchdown with 11:52 left in the fourth quarter, but loop, there it is, or in this case, loop, there it isn't, missed the extra point, bringing the score to 40-25. It's over. It's over. The Ravens are going to win. The Ravens are going to win. But just like the comeback game against the Oilers in 1992, the Bills refused to hear any plus-size ladies singing. And guess what? She was ready to warm up here, but the Bills weren't going to let it happen again. It's with 4:05 left in the fourth quarter. Coleman scored on a 10-yard pass from Allen that brought the score to 40-32. Oh my gosh, really? Kinda?
Yeah, that unfortunately they're not winning this game.
After the 2-minute warning, Allen rushed up the middle and scored, but they failed a third time to convert on the 2-point conversion. But guess what, Joe? It's 40-38 Baltimore, and Buffalo could go for the onside kick, but they chose to kick it deep and play defense and use their timeouts, and that ended up working. As with 3 seconds left in the game, newly acquired kicker Matt Prater kicked the game-winning field goal to give the Bills the win at 41-40. He basically said, "See you, Prater, Baltimore," or "See you, Prater, alligator." In a while, crocodile. Anyway, to give the Bills a win at 41-40. So, Joe, did you see this comeback happening after the Bills were down by 15 points earlier in the game?
No. Now, let me tell you a little personal story here real quick. Now, again, I told you I was traveling this weekend, and I was traveling that evening. So I didn't even get home till 9 o'clock Eastern time here. So I'm listening to the first quarter here and, seeing how it's going back and forth. And then I'm watching some of the game and I'm exhausted. All right. And I'm fighting to stay awake, see as much of this game as I can. And so finally I'm just going to lay down. I'm going to listen. And it's, I'm going in and out of consciousness here, and it's 40-25. Now, I said this backstage. I said, you know what? There's no use in fighting this. It just ain't going to happen tonight. And I'm going to shut this off. And then I go to hit the button, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm not going to do that. Okay. I don't want to wake up in the morning and find out that I missed this awesome comeback. So I said, I'm leaving this game on. And now I'm still fighting sleep and fighting consciousness and stuff. And so all of a sudden I hear that it's 41-40 Bills. And I seriously think I'm dreaming right now. It's like, that can't be true. That can't be right. But sure enough, that was it. Now, of course, yesterday I went back and watched, my wife and I we had it recorded. We were watching the fourth quarter. And again, I would be thinking the whole time watching this game, okay, valiant effort by the Bills to come back. They're not going to win this game. And I usually like to look at the positive things, and I'm always optimistic. The Ravens were playing amazing. It's just they're not going to win this game. And especially coming back even later, they're down by 2. They're kicking the ball off. It's going to take a miracle here. And the fact that miracle actually happened is just crazy. You were saying before, we started talking about this game, the game of the week. Again, it's only week 1, but this could turn out to be the game of the year. Now, again, the Ravens are going to be okay. I predict they're my Super Bowl pick. Okay. So I don't think this is going to hurt them at all. I think we both, when we did our predictions of the Bills schedule, we both had the Bills winning this game. I had the Bills finishing 12-5. I still have the Ravens finishing 13-4. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about this game. I mean, just Josh Allen. If people weren't convinced that he's MVP, I think that they should be now. He was bound and determined to win this game. And the thing I loved about him is he never panicked. I never saw a look of panic on his face here. Even watching the game back yesterday, he just, again, I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's thinking this is going to be a miracle win here if it happened. But still, no panic, never gave up, 394 yards, passing, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. He was bound and determined. Last year, Khalil Shakir took over as the Bills, number 1 receiver. I think we're slowly watching, or if we haven't seen it already, Keon Coleman taking over that role. I believe he's now officially the Bills' number 1 receiver. And again, proof of that, 8 catches here for 112 yards. Now, upon saying that, we always brag about the Bills' everybody eats philosophy here. Well, that was certainly true in this first game of the season. 9 different players caught passes here. Actually, a 10th player was targeted twice here, the running back Johnson. So 10 targets in this game, and 9 of them caught at least 1 pass. So that philosophy is still front and center here. Now, again, give the Ravens credit. Zay Flowers, 7 catches, 143 yards. Now, the bad thing is for Derrick Henry, what people are going to remember was his fumble at the end of the game that gave the Bills a chance. But let's give him the credit that he deserves. I mean, he almost won this game single-handedly for the Ravens. 169 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. I thought he all but put the game away. I think it was his touchdown where I was just getting ready to hit the off button there. He owns the Bills, and he just dominated this game. Not that I could talk about many defensive highlights here, but how about Ed Oliver? He seemed to be all over the place defensively, and the top bill, he had a sack, 3 tackles for a loss. We've seen his growth here. Matt Milano had a sack. Other than that, again, the Bills were trying. We knew this was going to be an issue. I didn't expect the Ravens to score 40 on them, but everybody was talking about this, and that's why a lot of people had the Ravens winning this game, is just because the Bills, especially in the secondary, very questionable, and it's still very questionable. So, this, again, game of the week, potentially game of the year. What a statement win by the Bills. Again, if I'm a Ravens fan, we got some watching right now. I don't think you have anything to worry about here. They're going to be just fine. But certainly the Bills made just an incredible comeback. And, I wish I would have been more awake to see the whole thing happen at the time. But still, it makes for an interesting story to tell for me. And I'm sure every fan has an interesting story about that game.
Mm-hmm. And guess what, Joe? Guess what? So back in the glory days of that comeback game, the Bills used something called the K-gun no huddle as a way to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Isn't it funny how I think it's funny how Yeah, Ravori, I mean, yeah, I mean, we we're not exactly we're not exactly thrilled with it, but I mean, we'll take it. Your Ravens got a great offense, and we just stuck in the game and found a way to win.
Yeah, great question. If we're happy
Anyway,
about the Bills' performance, overall, I'd say yes. Offensively, I mean, again, you see what they can do offensively. Defensively, there were concerns going into this game, and I don't think it's just the Ravens that are going to give them problems. I think a lot of teams might. Hopefully, as time goes on, they clamp that down. There were defensive concerns going into this game, and hopefully they can address those concerns. So obviously, defensively, I don't think any Bills fan will, take that as a satisfactory performance. Again, kudos to an amazing Ravens offense, which I think is going to make noise all year. So obviously that needs improvement. But, to get a win against the Ravens, even if the Bills would have won this game 10-9, to get a win against the Ravens to start the season is an amazing feat. So it's just a little bit more exciting to get it this way, I guess.
Anyway, so Joe, what did you think? Anyway, I was gonna say, what do you think of the Bills? Everything coming full circle. Did you notice they were running the no huddle at points during times of the game, and even during the fourth quarter when they needed a comeback, they went to the no huddle to create a spark, and I think it was clicking when they were doing that.
I got glimpses of that, and I didn't think about what you're saying there. The fact that that it could have sparked them and maybe helped them there. That honestly did not cross my mind, but that's a good point, and perhaps it helped. But a lot of parallels in that game. It's funny because the game against Houston, it wasn't televised locally here. They had the blackout rule, and that game wasn't sold out. So I had to listen to that game on the radio, and I say all the time, if that game was televised, I would have missed the comeback because I would have shut the TV off, gone to the mall, or done something, and came back and found out about this comeback. But because it was on radio, I could just take a nap and listen on radio, and I wasn't doing anything anyway. And obviously, I got to hear the comeback. Here in this game, I pretty much heard the comeback too. It was televised here. But again, I was kind of in and out of consciousness, trying to keep up with things.
And Joe, it's also parallels between those two games. There's a scapegoat for the losing team for why it happened. And you know why? Because remember, Kevin Gilbride was the scapegoat for the comeback game with Houston. Remember, because he could have just tried to run the ball down Buffalo's throats. Because remember, that's how you slowed down the no huddle in the Super Bowl, was you ran the ball and you took time off the clock. But he kept sending Warren Moon out to pass, and that allowed Buffalo to pick it off, and it allowed their offense to keep getting more chances. Well, guess what happened here too? Not Derrick Henry fumbling the ball. That wasn't the real scapegoat. You know what it was?
What's that?
Did you see when we kicked the ball deep down by 2 and we got it and we forced the Ravens to a 4th and 3? The Ravens were thinking about going for it, to try to ice the game.
Mm-hmm.
But Lamar Jackson was hurt. So instead of trying to go for it to basically win the game, they punted it back to Buffalo, and it came down to Prater kicking the field goal. So had they went for it and they got it, it wouldn't have came down to Prater's field goal, and they punted instead. But they said they had to because Lamar was cramping, so they couldn't go for it.
All right. See, I didn't know that. Now, it's funny. I told you my wife and I were watching the highlights of it. We were watching the whole fourth quarter yesterday. And she asked me, she said, why didn't they go for it there? I actually agreed with the call that the Ravens did. I think they made the right call. And what my explanation for that, when she asked me, why didn't they go for it? I was like, not that you could really trust your defense, the way the Bills offense was playing. But I said, if you go for that 4th and 3 and you miss it where you are there,
It's still in
you're
field goal range
that's
anyway.
the thing. You're potentially handing the Bills a field goal opportunity. Whereas if you punt this away, the Bills still have to drive down the field. Now, again, that both teams were moving at will with each other. But I told her, I said, I agree with the decision to punt the ball away, because at least then they have to, the Bills still have to make plays, and one interception, one fumble, one thing goes wrong, and the Ravens win the game.
Right.
Whereas again, you miss that 4th and 3 play. Yes, you can clinch the game right there, but you miss it, and the Bills are in field goal range already. So I didn't
And like
think
I
it was
said, Lamar was cramping up where they didn't feel comfortable going for it
which
because his
is
legs
another
were.
reason that it was, again, it didn't turn out well, but it was the right move, I think, for the Ravens to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, Joe, here's what we want to talk about. Nobody's addressing the big elephant in the room, and some of our Buffalo friends won't address this either. They're talking about how, like, oh, the Bills defense is horrible. They can't do this all the time. But you know what they're not factoring in?
What's
They're
that?
not factoring in that, the kickoff rule that they took from the UFL,
Uh-huh.
where the touchback goes out to the 35 because it incentivizes more returns. That kickoff rule, it kind of skews the offense kind of has more of an advantage over than the defense does, because if you kick it out of bounds for a touchback, the offense starts at the 35, which is much shorter field than what the touchback used to be.
True.
Or if the ball fails in the landing zone, they get it at the 40. So you have to try to get it to bounce into the landing zone and have it go into the thing, and they start at the 20. Or if you return it, they still get it out to the 33. And so I feel like you're seeing this like in other games too. Look at the Pittsburgh Jets game. There was literally like no defense in that game, and I think because it has to do with that rule. And guess what? Because of that rule now, you had 76% of kicks returned in week 1, way up from last year. And I think that might be a new NFL record by default.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do you think the new kickoff rule in effect, do you think it offers the Bills like a bigger offensive advantage? Same thing with Baltimore, because their offenses were already explosive prior to changing that rule, and you make the kickoff where there's a little more action and you add a little more offense to it. I think this Bills offense is going to be even more explosive. So my question is how do defensive coordinators try to scheme around this now? I feel like it's almost as if you have to like outscore the opponent rather than try to stop them. Or if you try to stop them, you got to scheme a little bit differently. What do you think?
yeah, I never thought about that, but I think you're totally right. I think especially the elite offenses like the Bills, like the Ravens, like other of the top offenses.
Or even the Bears, which we're going to get into. They had a good
I think that it could definitely be a boost to those offenses and offenses overall. Now, I am not a defensive coordinator, so I have absolutely no idea, what strategies you come up with. I mean, they will. They always do. I don't know how long it's going to take, but yeah, I think we're going to see an uptick in scoring because of this. I first of all, I love the fact that we're seeing kickoffs again, and they found a way to potentially do it in a safer way. But I again, I never really thought about what you're saying there, but it makes sense. And I think yes, especially with the elite offenses, you're going to see an uptick in offensive production because of that.
Because, like I said, remember the Bills revamped their defense because they want to get back to being a top 5 defense. But like I said, Bobby Babbage is going to have to get a little more creative because of these kickoff rules. And I think if you ask Ken, the Bears fan, he'd say the exact same thing, because I think that kickoff rule plus the way Ben Johnson runs his offense with the Bears is going to benefit their offense. But it's a little troubling some with. I don't think it's going to turn into the NBA where it's going to be all offense and no defense, but it looks like it's taking defense out of the game with this rule.
Yeah, I don't think it's taken defense out of the game, but I think, it always goes in stages with scoring or lack of it in the NFL. And I think we're certainly going to, see an uptick in that. Now, I've always been, you get some traditional NFL fans that would much rather see a 10-7 nail biter. I'm not one of those.
Or the
I mean, I don't
2000
mind.
Baltimore Ravens defense, right?
Right.
Those
I
NFL
don't mind. I don't mind that low scoring, hard nosed game. But if I had a choice, what do I enjoy more? I enjoy more the type of shootout that we saw Sunday night.
Mm-hmm. Me too. It's just like I said, you get these purists that are like, oh, it's not the same old football, because remember when the 2000 Ravens, they were a hard hitting team and you could get
Right.
away with doing that, and
Right.
but like I said, I think they got it right. I think they'd rather see more action instead of just starting at the 20 and everybody's tackling each other.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Joe, looking at how explosive Lamar and his offense was, do you still have them as a big contender this year? I think you already answered that.
Yeah, I got him winning the Super Bowl. So again, and I had him losing this game. The Ravens. I had him losing this game in the beginning, and I only have him losing 3 other games the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in this social media landscape on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, the first show of the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room, talking about a Bills victory and real football being back?
Yeah, I love it. By the way, Bills 30, Jets 23 this coming week. So I think they're going to go 2-0, and I think you had predicted a victory there in the beginning as well. So I am on Twitter X, everything from, the Bills being a hit and talking about a player who spit. You can catch me there on Joe Dell Sports on Twitter X.
And then you can find me, yours truly, on Bills Chat 1, at Bills Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Molloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags and theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that bell for notifications. For more content on Driving to the Top Productions, please visit our YouTube page, Twitch stream, Facebook stream, X stream, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, folks, in remembrance of the late and great Van Miller, in regards to the Baltimore versus Bills comeback game this past week, it is Fandemonium. It is Fandemonium. It is fantastic. With a shocking trade to the Green Bay Packers, let's see if the Cowboys trade of Micah Parsons pays off for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. And shout out goes out to J.J. McCarthy and a great debut with a win after sitting out all last year with a torn ACL. But to quote our friend Chris Berman, whether it's the comeback game down 35-3, the LA Monday night game where they came back and won in overtime, or this game where they were down 40-25 in the fourth quarter, nobody circles the wagons, especially after week 1 in their last home opener at the current Highmark Stadium, like the Buffalo Bills. See you next week, folks.
Have a great week.